Hi, you're watching a very, very special session of Agenda AWANI. It always gives me great pleasure to be at the World Islamic Economic Forum event, especially events like Idealab, and this is WIEF Idealab 2017. I have, as usual, great people to be with me on the show to chat about things that matter. And what matters now is entrepreneurship. What matters now is technopreneurship. And what matters more is what are the solutions that we want them to come up to. There's no way governments and the civil service sector can produce solutions like the private and the entrepreneurs around. But our world is being disrupted. Southeast Asia is touted as one of the hottest economic growing region. But sometimes we can be forgiven as citizens of Southeast Asia ourselves that how come I don't feel it? How come I don't get this? So to marry this gap, I have great people with me. Closest to me, he might look Southeast Asian, but he's not. He's James Digby, now residing in, surprise, surprise, Copenhagen, Denmark. I have Real Tamasha, Chief Executive Officer of MuslimMarket.com from Indonesia, but has tons of experience dealing with big money. Indonesia, big country, big population, big money now. And James, I've known him when he was a co-founder of this Global Startup Awards, but he has moved on. You know that Ferrari has now quadrupled, and the money has also gained more and more. So he's now representing the venture capital side of the industry. But I want to start with Real. We Serumpun. Serumpun means brotherhood. You know? But sometimes because of the changes and the fast speed of changes, sometimes, you know, we think we know what we don't know. So I'm going to play dumb here. Tell me about MuslimMarket.com. And there's a lot of promise in the new world, especially digital economy. Surprise, surprise, for anything Islamic. If we look at the trajectory growth of Sukuk, for example, and in an earlier interview, I was telling them about our own Malaysian Sovereign Wealth Fund, Khazanah, which had successfully launched their sustainable and responsible sukuk for education. And that's a few hundred million Malaysian ringgit. So if you can give us the overview of your position in the Indonesian and also Southeast Asian market for what you're doing. And at the same time, of course, you will address the rise of the Sharia and Islamic compliant business in even the new world of digital economy.
Yes, thank you. So I think for the beginning is that when we started the Muslim market 2 years back, we saw there's quite several big e-commerce that comes in, especially from outside Indonesia, from the rocket companies, you know, like Zalora, Lazada, and locals one like Tokopedia, Bukalapak, and all sell general products, nothing very specific. So I came from a background of finance. I have my investment company. So when I talk with several partners of mine that built this Muslim market, we were thinking that what is the niche market that we want to aim? Niche market, but very deep. We just don't see it in front of our eyes, but that Indonesia is the biggest population of Muslim, 80%, but no platform is focusing on that. So in that case, 2 years ago, we thought that, okay, this is the right market that we need to be focused on. We see a lot of good example that already exists, like Wardah. Wardah is a makeup company that was existed already probably years back then. But 10 years before, they revamped all their products into more to be a halal product. So they stamp out the halal product in front of their products. And they revamp all the marketing and everything. So halal or Islam product is not necessarily has to be a second-class product. So because right now in Indonesia they all perceive that Sharia banks and all those products that related to Islam is a second-class product. but we can do a marketing or we can package it as a premium product as the same thing. So that's what Wardah did, and now they are way far compared to all the product like Maybelline and Revlon and everyone else. They are leading the industry. So with that, we see that if we see that people currently or the market see that halal product is equals as a quality product. So that's what we see, that people are more aware to be more aware to the halal products, or more aware to be into the Sharia finance. I did my FGD when I was in the Sharia banking. They see the Sharia finance is more not to the principle. I mean, not to the products,
yes.
but very to the emotional, very to the community. So it's not necessarily is this product is good or not, but it's more to the emotional. So Islamic product or something that is got to do with the Sharia product is more to the emotional that we need to dig on.
James like halal food, but I'm not going to ask him about the halal market.
Thank you.
James, this is not your first rodeo in Malaysia or Southeast Asia.
It is not.
You've been looking at it maybe from a different angle for many, many years.
Yeah.
But now with this new hat that you're wearing, how do you look at Southeast Asia and the startup community?
I think it's growing. Seeing the aspects of entrepreneurs coming from a very different aspect as well. European companies tend to look outside very quickly. So living in Copenhagen, we only have a population of 5.5 million people.
A small Hard Rock Cafe, yes.
And a very small Hard Rock Cafe. But with that in mind, it's a case that here there are so many consumers that you can tap into. And I do believe the entrepreneurs are looking towards that. But what's interested me even more so now, though, is that they're looking towards social innovation and being able to tap into not only what's good for them and using technology for the sake of technology.
Let me lay on top of the term social innovation from a nation and regional perspective. It's not that I don't want to use Lazada or Zalora, but like Rio just made the point, and I said this in my session that I was a panelist. If another 10 times I go into Lazada and Zalora and there's no things for me, and this is from my own country, Lazada Malaysia, for example.
Locals.
So I expect them to have Malaysian-centric needs and wants, but that's not happening. But maybe that's because the old model is the rocket company somewhere in Germany
coming in
here just because of the market and data.
Yeah.
How would the new VC be different coming into Southeast Asia, looking at, nobody disputes the potential, the economic potential of Southeast Asia. One of the youngest demography in the world as a region, one of the hottest growth trajectory, but we do not want to repeat the mistakes of other region. We want it to be sustainable and conducive to our region. So how would a VC, which holds a lot of power, even look at social side of things? Because at the end of the day, EBITDA and PATAMI is not reflecting of social inclusion.
It isn't not. And if we looked at the investments on those traditional factors, we would probably discount them 9 times out of 10. But looking at it now, I think more and more our investors are looking towards how do we give back. We've done very well in our space, in our circle, but how do we also give back into education, agriculture,
but
healthcare?
But that usually comes in the form of CSR, which is not good enough anymore.
Corporates, so one thing that we're doing very well is working together with corporates, finding what they need for the CSR element and bringing it into where the entrepreneurs are.
What about social enterprises?
Social enterprises, I do believe there is a space for them. There is a space for us as a VC firm to look into that. I think NGOs will do a great job in empowering them, enabling them to do the job that they need to do, and to be able to provide education for all, clean water, clean, good source of food for everybody. But is it the case that social innovation should come into, can we get our children to learn through more innovative ways? Can we start getting technology in hospitals that instead of being paper records, being digital, and taking that next step that I do believe that the rest of the world has done through e-commerce, through the aspects of getting a taxi nowadays. You don't wave your hand in the middle of the street to get a taxi, sweating and then haggling. Everything is done from day one. Can you bring that into the social and lifestyle of someone?
I think that brand Muslim and Islam. How do you do justice to that by whatever services and product that you produce? How do you generate that from within MuslimMarket.com itself? For James, it must be back to the point. I would like to, travel you back in time. When you were part of the Global Startup Award, the issue was, here we have many great startups and companies, internet or otherwise around the world, but people don't recognize them. Hence, giving them a global award and making it really global with equal inclusive participation. I don't think the world has changed that much, James, but you have moved on. So who moved this crusade that you were moving before? So let's talk about all that right after the short break. Hi, you're still watching a very special recording of Agenda AWANI. I would like to give the chance to Rail first. About the question I posed earlier. If you carry the Islam and Muslim brand, and there's a higher expectation somehow, both good and not good.
Yeah, true. Well, when we create this Muslim market, we don't want to be seen as just an online shopping, but selling halal product. So we create this cycle. So in Muslim market, the customer is able to make an infaq, to make to give an infaq. So for instance, their transaction is $10, so they can add up to $15, and the $15 go for the infaq, and the infaq will go through this. We call it dompet duafa. So they have these SMEs that they are grooming to make products, handicrafts, clothes, and everything else. So this infaq will go to them to create to give them added value for their products. And we also come in to give them value such as marketings and everything else.
In
so
Europe,
they can sell it
like
in Muslim market
for a good cause.
Yeah, so they can sell it later in Muslim market. For the time being, they can only sell it in their communities, but then they can sell it to Muslim market. So that's the cycle that we're trying to build in Muslim market.
So would you want to build your strength within the Muslim market or population first, and then be inclusive to the non-Muslim market? Because some would argue, why only go for 250 million people when you can be relevant to everyone around the world?
Yeah, well, actually, I have a friend that is non-Muslim that they also sell some stuff in Muslim market that is not also related to their religion, but they see it as a market that is specific for their product. So it doesn't matter anymore.
James like halal food and products, and he looks single, but it's not. Every time he travels like here to Malaysia, he has to compensate back home. So please be the new friend of MuslimMarket.com. But to James, the question I asked before, remember those days before you were VC related and we were on this other side, the one without resources and money, fighting for that good cause, helping this startup, and now that you're on the other side,
how does it?
I think you still, I believe you still remember the crusades and the causes before.
I do, and that's also one of the reasons why I took up the mantle. Looking to the social innovation side is also very important to me. It wasn't about making sure that we fund more companies that use technology for the sake of technology. I believe that is one of the mistakes that past generations have done beforehand. And you've seen that time and time again with crashes in the stock market, the dot-com bubble busting for people just investing for the sake of investing.
The subprime crisis was a great example.
Exactly that. But now, why don't we look at finding companies that just have good within their core? The UN set out a charter for their sustainable development goals of 17 goals.
You're telling me,
which allow them
this
to.
is news to me. I'm working in news.
Yes.
There's a VC that's going to look at 17 SDGs,
We
from
use-
eradicating poverty, to clean water,
to
as
yes.
a prerequisite of giving funding.
That is one of the prerequisites before we even look at the startup.
Seriously?
Then we allow on the ESGs on top of that to make sure that they fit and they make sense. But as long as they've got that baked within their core, then we're interested to see. Don't get me wrong, unfortunately we're not there to be able to help, let's say, provide education for
Correct,
all,
correct.
reading and writing.
Understand.
But can we start giving technologies out there that, for example, shipping containers retrofitted with hydroponics that allow you to grow your salad leaves, whether it be in an underground car park or in the middle of the desert?
Massive online learning through GSM phones and stuff.
Online learning and, augmented reality through
So
schools.
you're also, look out for these disruptors to breach social inclusion.
The unreasonable entrepreneurs, the ones that don't want to go with the norms and create these products just for the sake of creating a product or technology because they can create the technology.
So how are you reaching out to these people? Because you know the stereotype, once a VC, always a VC. And I heard in my previous, the session after me, my session was cool. We're very kind to VCs. But the session after this, VC even stands for vulture capitalism. So
I don't think that came up on our panel of VCs, admittedly. But yeah, that is the traditional way. You look at some, say, investors will only particularly look at you if you're struggling or if they can get a quick return.
Yeah.
But I believe that actually doesn't need to happen nowadays. There are great returns to be made, and the social innovation side, it's really undervalued. There are not enough people looking into this space that can provide the support and the mentorship to be able to take them to the next stage. Because they class them as a social enterprise, something that an NGO should deal with, and that they're going to make only 10 times your money back or 15 times your money back rather than 100 or 2 times.
So all we need to do is, spread the virus that we have infected James with to other, people outside Asia. I have to go for the last break, but once we are back, for people like you guys, how do you plan for that? How do you plan for the ultimate disruption of all, where everything that you put in now is not going to be relevant in 5 to 6 years?
We just talked about it this morning. Isn't it?
Exactly.
So continue that after the short break. You're still watching a very, very special recording of Agenda AWANI. I always love it when my brothers and sisters from Indonesia, when they are here. My best discussion had been also included many of the sessions in Indonesia. James Digby has been to Jakarta, and I was there with him, and we had a nice crossing of ideas with a lot of Indonesians on top of a building that I can't even remember now. But we have to move on. We have to move forward and future. And a lot of old and young generation alike, they're thinking about what's going to happen to us, because this is a world of disruption.
Yeah.
So when I put that and scale that down to a micro level like muslimmarket.com, or maybe if you look at sukma.com, we don't necessarily have to fear it, because if we're right on top of the disruption, it can help us catch up with the Alibabas of the world, the Googles of the world, because we're riding the wave. For bigger institutions like Google's and Alibaba's world, they're already committed and they have infras across. But a smaller and nimble outfit like muslimmarket.com, who's just on the trajectory up, could be pliable enough to be ship-shaped onto the new needs of the future.
Yeah.
Can I put disruption that way to you?
Well, I think we also discussed about this last time, that this disruption is always going to be there. As long as the technology evolves, there's going to be something new, and there's going to be disrupt all what we're doing right now. So I think how to make the business sustainability is the most important thing. Whether how the tech is growing, but the sustainability is still be there. So looking back in Indonesia, I think the growth of e-commerce is still slowly growing, not as quick as China or Western countries. Like back in Indonesia right now, we see as if we see it in Western or China country, it's like offline to online. But right now in Indonesia, it's going back again from online to offline. Well, many e-commerce is building their pop-up stores and offline channels, like using their sort of like MLMs, agents, and everything. Because a lot of secondary cities, they still don't do the online shopping.
Broadband penetration.
Yeah, exactly. So the infrastructure for the offline, I think, it still need to be there. While the online is still growing. Probably in each country will be different, right? But in Indonesia, it's like that. But I think if you have a solid offline, like a solid offline channel, I mean, the sustainability will be there for the e-commerce.
So you're saying that muslimmarket.com would not solely be reliant on the digital commerce, but also will have brick and mortar side of it.
Yes.
Being built as important.
We still do the offline campaign like pop-up markets, because a lot of the Indonesians still like to see and feel the product that they're buying, and then we still try also to do the offline channels as well.
Wouldn't you want more vendors to grow with you?
Of course.
And have more product?
Yes.
How do you help them go up with you?
So we always do a roadshow through every province through their SMEs. Because they have this SMEs association in every province. Now that's where we ask them to sell their product through Muslim markets.
It's not that for the lack of projects or business initiatives to fund. As we can hear, that alone is massive. In my last interview with Pak Jokowi, he said that this year alone, Indonesia needs 500 million just to fund infrastructure projects.
That's
not
what
including
he's
all
doing.
this. So, Southeast Asia is the place to be.
It is. It's about disruption as well, though. It is about disrupting the norm and seeing how we can really take those next steps. And we talked about it earlier on, in that companies, that are leading the way nowadays. You're getting job titles that didn't exist 5 years ago. These roles simply weren't there.
Correct.
Social media analyst, for example, is one, and you're seeing that in 5 years' time. We're working in technologies that we don't understand quite yet. We're not quite there yet in terms of the technological curve.
Correct.
But can we also be a proponent of that and push that disruption? I think we can do, and I think it's a job that we have in the VC industry to keep pushing those boundaries and not just funding those ideas which are copied from somewhere else. Yes, they may make an extra buck or two, but make only half and then still scale.
Are you looking at shorter rate of returns now? Because 7 years might be, you might be disrupted at 4.
The model that we look at is actually a very short time frame. We're there to support the entrepreneurs from what we call the pre-seed money all the way up to a Series A institutional investment. At a time when entrepreneurs and startups are still finding their feet, needing help and guidance, but do have a great idea and have the ability and the nuance to create that vision and that platform. But at the time when they need their first customer, or they need help to take them through their first set of 100 people that love what they do. And I think that's the point where there's not a lot of help in that period at the moment.
What's the best thing going for Southeast Asia in your point of view from where you are?
For me, I believe it's the scale and the ability to not only regionally disrupt, but also look at home markets as well. There's such a large space within here anyway, but if you can overcome those language barriers, like we saw Arami in Thailand having to mix together with the Indonesian company. I mean, like there you saw they had issues with the language. You have Thai and you have Indonesian. There is no middle ground. So it's about finding that local partner each and every time, understands what happens, understand how to work, and then you can come together.
How would Muslim market be relevant not just to Indonesians but to whoever that needs the product?
We're also planning expanding, especially to all Muslim countries like Malaysia, Brunei, Turkey, and everything else. But that's going to be our next plan. Going to be that.
So there's a lot of needs for consultants,
for
new partners, and equity stakeholders. Never enough time with great people. Thank you so much, James and Riel, for making time. I'm going to follow up individually, with individual discussions on this, because we cannot raise the hope of the audience and not pursue. But I think we're going to see more of James and Rail in the very near future. So thank you so much again, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks to the World Islamic Economic Forum for allowing Agenda AWANI to be recorded on the sidelines of the WIEF Idealab 2017, and keep following us on all the social media platforms that we have, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or download our iOS and Android application. You can watch and you can critique at the same time. Good night and goodbye. Thank you.